Hello, this is Ron Paul with your weekly update for Monday, November 4th. October was Iraq's deadliest month since April of 2008. In those 5.5 years, not only has there been no improvement in Iraq's security situation, but things have gotten much worse. More than 1,000 people were killed in Iraq last month, the vast majority of them civilians. Another 1,600 were wounded as car bombs, shootings, and other attacks continue to maim and murder. As post-liberation Iraq spirals steadily downward, Prime Minister Nuri al-Maliki was in Washington last week to plead for more assistance from the United States to help restore order to a society demolished by the 2003 U.S. invasion. Al-Qaeda has made significant recent gains. Maliki told President Obama at their meeting last Friday, and Iraq needs more U.S. military aid to combat its growing influence. Obama pledged to work together with Iraq to address al-Qaeda's growing presence, but what was not said was that before the U.S. attack, there was no al-Qaeda in Iraq. The appearance of al-Qaeda in Iraq coincided with the U.S. attack. They claim we had to fight terror in Iraq, but the U.S. invasion resulted in the creation of terrorist networks where before there were none. What a disaster. Maliki told President Obama last week that the war in next-door Syria was spilling over into Iraq, with the anti-Assad fighters setting off bombs and destabilizing the country. Already more than 5,000 people have been killed throughout Iraq this year, and cross-border attacks from Syrian rebels into Iraq are increasing those numbers. Again, what was not said was that the U.S. government had supported these anti-Assad fighters both in secret and in the open for the past 2 years. Earlier in the week, a group of senators, all of whom had supported the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq, sent a strongly worded letter to Obama complaining that Maliki was far too close to the Iranian government next door. What was not said was that this new closeness between the Iraq and Iranian governments developed under the U.S.-installed government after the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Surely there is plenty of blame that can be placed on Maliki and the various, no doubt, corrupt politicians running Iraq these days. But how was it they came to power? Were we not promised by those promoting the war that it would create a beachhead of democracy in the Middle East and a pro-American government? According to former Treasury Secretary Paul O'Neill in early 2001, as the new administration was discussing an attack on Iraq, then Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld said, quote, "Imagine what the region would look like without Saddam and with a regime that allies with U.S. interests. It would change everything in the region and beyond it. It would demonstrate what U.S. policy is all about," close quote. We see all these years later now how ridiculous this idea was. I have long advocated the idea that since we just marched in, we should just march out. That goes for U.S. troops and also for U.S. efforts to remake Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Egypt, and everywhere the neocon wars of liberation have produced nothing but chaos, destruction, and more U.S. enemies overseas. We can best improve the situation by just leaving them alone. The interventionists have, unfortunately, neither learned their lessons from the Iraq debacle, nor have they changed their tune. They are still agitating for regime change in Syria, even as they blame the Iraqi government for the destabilization that spills over. They are still agitating for a U.S. attack in Iran, with members of Congress introducing legislation recently that would actually authorize U.S. force against Iran. It looks like a very slow learning curve for our bipartisan leaders in Washington. It's time for a change. Thanks for calling this update. A new update is placed on this number, 888-322-1414, every Sunday. The written text can be found on my free foundation website at www.the-free-foundation.org and on my Facebook page. Thanks for listening.